Marketing really is the modern way of communicating. That's really what we're seeing now. People don't think of marketing as very valuable, but in fact, marketing is very valuable. Um, if we took a look at the history real quick, there was a point where the U.S. really didn't have a whole lot of supply. So think back to 1800s, right, where a lot of people had to make their own things. You're out and think of Laura Ingalls Wilder. Like you're out in the prairie and you need a something for your ox, right? You either go into town and hopefully there's still one in the store, or you're going to have to make one and carve it out of wood, or there just wasn't a whole lot of stuff, and so it was pretty hard to get stuff. In that situation, there really wasn't much of a demand for marketing. It was pretty much just supply. We need supply. We need stuff. Um, Kind of step forward into maybe Henry Ford and the Model T, and kind of that whole early 1900s part, and you'll see that there was this big boom in production. So overall production went up. People found that they could centralize things. We had factories, and so they started producing a lot of stuff. So this really was a boom. A lot of people were able to get cars, and a lot of goods and services were available, and so there's kind of this big availability. So again, not really the point where we needed marketing, but kind of around the 40s and 50s, companies started realizing that they were either overproducing or they would produce something and they weren't sure if it was the right thing. So you think about early TV, where they're talking about, a soap opera where, they literally are pausing in the middle of the story to sell you soap, laundry detergent, or, whatever it was, right? That's when marketing really took off. That's when marketing started to have value to a business. Before that, it was like, produce as much of it as you can, put it in the Sears catalog, and, you'll sell out of it. But then we start getting into a situation where, okay, we actually have enough supply. Are we selling the right things? Are people buying the stuff that we create? And that's where marketing started to have some value to a business. So the idea of communicating what the product was, what the value of that product was, started to make a difference. So companies would say, well, we have this type of toothpaste or something, right? Well, our toothpaste has this product, this ingredient in it, so we want to communicate that to everyone so they could see what that is, and hopefully they're gonna buy our toothpaste. We started to see that. Now in the 60s and 70s, we started seeing a bigger trend where people would take that value, and they would really try and communicate all the value of the product. And we started to see situations where people might be doing it unethically, right? So they might be communicating a promise of a product that didn't actually do that. If you eat this cereal, you're going to be strong like this guy, or if you use this hair cream, all the girls are going to like you, or something like that. And so towards the 70s, we started having some actual regulation happen in marketing where you couldn't market certain things, you couldn't overpromise something. And so by the 80s, marketing really had kind of this negative term, this negative impression. And I think it's been hard for people to climb out of that and say, I work in marketing, there is value in that, and it can be an honest profession. But I think we're seeing a little bit more of that, and we'll get to why that is. Marketing really is the modern way of communicating. That's really what we're seeing now. So whatever a business needs, is very similar to what an individual would need. So as a business, you would want to, have someone buy your product. As a person, you want to have somebody communicate with you and be interested in what you're saying. You think of a marriage proposal, right? That's an offer and acceptance. It's a whole thing right there. So what we saw in business, the supply demand, less of an issue, but the idea of communicating value, we're seeing this more and more as our modern society. So the idea of how do you get someone's attention, right? We don't go and scream at someone's face, right? Like some infomercials, hey, buy this product, blah, 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 blah. That's not a good way to do it. And we're finding that that's not an effective marketing technique, and it's not a good personal communication, right? But how do you get attention? Well, you start with an interesting line. You start with an interesting, demonstration or something like that. So a lot of the things that we're going to cover in marketing, a lot of things we talk about in marketing really have personal application. This gets even more and more when we talk about social media, how you handle your social media. What are you trying to do? Well, you try and communicate out to the world, and you're hoping that more people will follow you and get interested and respond back to you. And this is the modern way of communicating, right? Well, businesses were probably one of the first to really start that with the social media, right? They wanted to, how do we communicate our brand and our product? How do we get people to like us and get interested and, ask us for more information? Well, that's the same kind of thing we're doing now, just on a personal level, right? So I'm gonna blog, I'm gonna tweet, I'm gonna Instagram, I'm gonna, whatever it is now. I'm gonna do this so that I get followers and I get people interested, and that gives me something in return. How a business gets a commitment from a person, how do I get them to buy my product, or how do I get them to say they want something, right? Same kind of thing we're doing now. If I want to get a group of people together, now I'm starting to, direct message, and I'm starting to build kind of a gathering or a following in order to get something done, right? So these are techniques that are based in marketing, and that's the kind of stuff that we're going to cover. So why we do something or why we don't do something is more relevant now than ever. And that's kind of on the lines of psychology. So marketing really has gotten very personal in that sense. So the idea that a business is trying to figure out what you need to hear in order to buy something might sound, shady, but that concept of, how do I get somebody to, agree to go out with me or something, there's a similar thing there, well, appearance and communication and, social pressure and, what are peer evaluations and, all that kind of stuff. It's all based in marketing. So I think what you're going to find in this course is that all the stuff that we do in marketing has a lot of personal, it's very applicable to you as an individual. We brand ourselves, we market ourselves when we're trying to get a job, we're trying to sell, so all of this stuff is really based in marketing. So I think you're going to find a lot of value in that. And like I said, marketing really is just the modern way of communicating.